Welcome back to the shop, everybody. Nathan Wilson, Driving Dreams. So lately, I'll try to keep this quick. Lately, I've been seeing a lot of half-ass, quote-unquote, restorations being sold as, fully restored cars, and it's kind of been upsetting me lately. And I see people getting taken for a lot of money. These cars are selling for $60,000, $70,000, $80,000, and they're kind of junk. So I recently went and looked at one that was for sale for 62 or 63, and I couldn't believe what I saw when I got there. I did take a video of it. It may be posted already. I'm not sure if if I'm going to post it before this video or ever, but I really just couldn't believe what I saw. So I wanted to make a quick video discussing some of the important stuff and some stuff that you guys want to look for, especially some of this is unique to Lincolns, but a lot of it is just general, for old classic cars, is kind of common sense stuff. But I keep seeing these lipstick on a pig, quote unquote restorations being sold for a whole bunch of money. And I just feel bad for the people who are getting taken. And then I get the calls and they're like, hey, can you help me out and, do this right? And at that point, you're basically starting over. That car that I went and looked at, the guy's asking 62 grand for, it would be just like starting with a complete project car out of a field for me. I would have to redo, everything because they half-assed so much stuff. So that being said, one of the main things that was kind of pissing me off with that car is they didn't do any of the bushings, any of the ride quality stuff. So, they slapped a decent paint job on it and some really nice rims, and they made it look cool, and that was it. And oh my gosh, so I had mentioned like the control arm bushings as an example. That's what your control arm bushings should look like, especially if you're buying a $60,000 car from a shop that's supposed to be well known and selling, fully restored stuff. The bushings themselves are cheap. They're like $5 each or $10 or whatever. It's just they're a real pain in the ass to change. And so that's why I see that as a main thing to be skipped a lot. And I understand if you're just a guy and you're selling your car for $20,000 or whatever it is, or even $30,000, maybe you didn't do that. And, just be honest about it and make sure you tell the people, hey, this isn't a full restoration. And I didn't do every single bushing on the car. But if you're a big time shop that has a TV show and shit, and you're selling cars, as fully restored, and you didn't do the bushings on it, that to me is kind of unacceptable. So upper and lower ball joints, this is what you want to see. You want to see fresh, new stuff, hopefully, well greased. Here's the lower ball joint. This is what you want to see. Let's show you this other side because I already got that brace on. So that's what you want to see from under here. And this, I get it. We're way under the car on a lift. And when you're buying a car on eBay, sight unseen, it's difficult to get pictures like this. Most of the time, they're skipping those for a reason. So pay somebody, pay an independent inspector to go out and inspect the vehicle to look for stuff like this. Sway bar, stabilizer bar bushings. Hopefully you want to see those new. Those are important for ride quality, just like the ball joints, upper and lower. Those are important for, to have no rattling, no shaking, no wobbling. Same with the control arm bushings. All this stuff is super important for the ride quality. Here's the inner control arm bushings. That's what you want to see. Let's see, tie rod ends, also obviously very important. Now a lot of this, like I said, this is all, just kind of common sense and for any car, not just Lincoln's. The idler arm needs to be in good shape. The center link on these Lincolns is very important. They're very commonly worn out. That's the bar that goes across the center here. And when they wear out, it causes sloppy steering. And it can actually be dangerous. So hopefully you want to see this new foam. They come with a new foam. If you see that, this thing's been replaced recently, and hopefully you see some fresh grease on it and stuff. Inner tie rods hopefully look good. All this stuff is so important for, you know, the wobbling and the tightness in the steering. Obviously, you want to have a rebuilt steering box. That's a little bit harder to tell if it's been done or not. I guess maybe, you know, obviously if it's all rusty and shitty, I doubt somebody's going to pull the steering box and rebuild it inside and not paint the outside. So maybe that's one way to tell. These bushings hopefully are new. A lot of people replace them with solid bushings. I prefer the original style with the rubber. I think it's a little less vibration in the steering wheel. However, if you have the option between like not doing it or putting the solid ones, definitely put the solid ones. That's a really important thing. It helps the car not fall out of reverse or into reverse. Let's see what else. Obviously, you want to see new transmission lines, new brake lines, new fuel lines. There are the fuel lines. Hopefully you see something like copper nickel or, you know, stainless steel, something that's not going to rust easily. What else? Here are the stabilizer bar strut rod bushings. Hopefully those look like this. Again, all this shit, all the rubber bushings, everything should be, you know, hopefully new, especially if you're buying a restored car from a shop. Hopefully you see a lot of new bolts like this. I try to replace as many bolts as I possibly can. I don't know, I feel like, you know, instead of putting an old rusty ass bolt here, let me just put a nice brand new grade 8 bolt, new lock washers, all that stuff. Not going to have any issues with it. I do a lot of stainless steel bolts wherever I can. This is just unnecessary, but I just thought it looked better on the park brake cable. Let's see. This is a shield. I put a fire sleeve over the starter wire because these are real close to the exhaust, as you can see here. And another thing that I usually do is, this is just this simple stuff, man, but it makes a big difference in the longevity of the car and not having problems. So this is just a piece of flat steel that I wrap in like an insulation and just bolted it right there so that the starter cable can run behind it. And then I don't know if you'll be able to see up to the solenoid and everything. So it stays, you know, that's going to keep it from you know, getting hot and the insulation melting and then eventually arcing out and having premature issues that you don't have to have. This is a polished stainless steel exhaust. I polished it myself by hand. It's all dirty right now, but this, you know, stainless steel exhaust is going to last a really, really long time. It'll hopefully outlast me. You want to see new U-joints. It's not as important as some of the bushings that I was talking about, but you know, it does help and it is important. Hopefully you have fresh seals in the transmission. Hopefully the transmission looks something like this, so you can assume maybe that it was rebuilt, I guess. All these pieces, man, I took out and I powder coated myself, and so it may not seem like much, but this will all, you know, last a really long time. It's not gonna rust out or anything. These bushings, these were actually the original ones. They were in real good shape, so I just cleaned up the rubber real good, put some fresh bolts, powder coated everything. So, you know, the goal here is longevity, and you want to have no issues for as long as possible. So you want to just be able to get in this car and go, and you don't want stuff to rust. I'm hoping this car lasts, you know, this thing will way outlast me. I'll be long gone and this car will still be around because all these pieces are powder coated and everything is covered and coated nicely, and, you know, rust preventative. This is all Pour 15 underneath here. So the Pour 15 does a really good job, you know, preventing future rust. And then I got to put all the new plugs in. I was just doing a little video about these cheap plugs versus these are the original style, a little bit thicker, nicer rubber. It's just little shit like this, man. I mean, that car I looked at the other day, you could stick your finger on here and just, there was a ½ inch at least of grime and nasty shit, you know. So obviously they didn't do any of this. I mean, let alone, you know, the rubber body plugs and stuff being new. They didn't do shit. So it's kind of a shame, you know. So let's see what else. Leaf springs. Leaf springs are super expensive on these cars. They're about $600, and before I forget, the coil springs as well. Coil springs are like 350, 400 bucks. It's a lot, man, but it makes a big difference in the ride quality. It makes the car sit level when everything is new. It sits the way it's supposed to. You can do a drop, like a 1-inch drop if you really want to, because the car, when you put new leaf springs and new coil springs, it does sit a little higher than most people would probably like. But man, the ride is incredible. It's like the day it came out of the factory, when all these bushings are new, all the springs are new, everything is replaced the way it's supposed to be. It's like going back in time, man. When you get in this thing and drive it, it drives like you just pulled off of the Ford factory, or maybe even a little bit better. So it's worth it, man. It's a lot of money, but it's worth it. And more, this video is more towards the shops that are supposed to be restoring these things and not doing this stuff. This is more for you guys, you know, what to look for when you're buying one of these 50, 60, 70, $80,000 cars. So leaf springs, you want to see new, you want to at least at the very minimum, hopefully they replace the bushings. I powder coated this copper. I was fucking around. I probably should redo that. But anyway, see the bushings here, nice clean new rubber, not all cracked up and everything. You don't want any of this shit to be clanking around and causing unnecessary noise and rattles and shakes and shit like that, you know. Hopefully you got new exhaust. That's pretty self-explanatory, and it's all ran correctly. You know, you see a lot of guys are a lot of shops even are running the exhaust under the axle, especially when they do air ride and shit, or they're stopping it. That car I looked at the other day, the exhaust just stopped back here. It had these cheap ass like cherry bomb type thrush mufflers or whatever right there, and then it just dumped right here before the axle. That gives you a shitty ride, man. It creates all kinds of noise and vibration and fumes in the car, and just a really bad idea. So you want to see new brake lines, obviously. If you see new bolts around the rear end, that's great. That means at the very least somebody took this off and looked in there and inspected everything. Maybe they redid the rear end, maybe not. Like in this case, everything looked brand new. It was really good shape. But the key with a lot of this stuff is just to take everything apart, take every nut and bolt off of the car, inspect everything, look at stuff, put your eyeballs on it, you know, and just make sure that things are right in there. You know, like I said, it's all about, you know, it's all about having a problem-free experience. You know, you want your customer to, I know I'm getting off track, but I want my customer to not have any issues, you know, to be able to just get in this car and go and never have any problems. Hopefully your brakes are all rebuilt. You see a bunch of no shiny shit in there. If you're able to look, you know, take the drum off and just look in there. Fresh pads, obviously. You'd be surprised how many of these cars are sold as fully restored cars, and this shit's not done, you know. Everything's all rusty and shitty in here, and even bad brake pads and brake shoes. It's crazy. New shocks, again, obviously important. You want to see hopefully new sending units. The gas tank, either shiny new, or you want to at least see that somebody has had it out and cleaned it and stuff. This one was new. What I typically do, even with a brand new one, I spray the whole thing with 415, and then when that dries, I put this coating on it. I don't even know why I put this on there. Years ago, I did it once, and I just liked it, and I just kind of like the look of it, and it kind of separates things in here. And so I did it. I've been doing it ever since. And then this is a shield that comes on the 64s, but I have a few extras. So I put that there. I just kind of like how it kind of keeps the straps, you know, off of the actual tank, so you're not going to have any wear or anything like that. What else? Okay, so this one I put a fuel pump on. The mechanical fuel pump is new and it works and everything's fine. But I also have this electric fuel pump. I'm not sure if I'm going to put it on a switch or just have it run all the time. Because the cars, you know, they do tend to have some fuel pump issues. So hopefully this will, you know, this is like a backup. It's kind of like a double, you know, just protection here. I'm not fully, haven't finished wiring it up yet. But nice new fuel hoses, fuel lines. Again, you know, I don't want to have any issues. So even though the mechanical fuel pump's new, when I sell this car to somebody, year, 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the road, between the two of these, you know, if one gives out, the other one's still going to be working. The guy's not going to be left, you know, on the side of the road. And even if I put this on a switch and this doesn't really go and you just run it every now and then or whatever, if something goes wrong, you're not stranded. You have a backup electric fuel pump. Fuel lines. This is some stainless steel that I had. I've done this a couple of times. I like it. I like the way it looks. I like the protection that it provides for the fuel lines as opposed to just the clips that were normally there. I put another piece here just to kind of protect it. Fuel lines, the fuel line, the brake line, and the return line are all in here. Hopefully you got new calipers. I guess not necessary for them to be new, but it's great. It helps, especially when it's supposed to be a restored car. New brake pads. I don't know what else, man. I just, like I said, I just wanted to kind of go over some of the stuff. And I haven't even gotten on the top of the motor yet or anything, or the engine even, you know. But you know, you want to see a new alternator. This is a one-wire alternator, the tough stuff. And it's so much more reliable and less BS than, you know, all the wires that came off of here before. So, and there was a junction here originally, so I went ahead and put an A&L fuse, 200 amp fuse there. So if God forbid something goes wrong and this alternator starts going haywire, you know, it won't cause a bunch of electrical issues inside the car. Sway bar bushings, I don't know if I mentioned that. Stabilizer bar bushings. You know, just all the stuff, when you buy one of these cars, especially in the, you know, $100,000 range, I can't believe these people are selling $100,000 cars that a lot of this stuff is not done on. And, you know, guys are just going to have problems. And, you know, I get the calls all the time. And just last week I got a call from a guy who bought one from a shop, and he's had it for about a year, and he's put in an additional $20,000 in it since he's had it. And it was a high dollar car when he got it, and he's just still having problems, and he's ready to just get rid of it. He's so frustrated. So I don't want people to have that type of experience, you know. I want them to be happy and to be able to enjoy these cars, you know, the way they were meant to be. And that's why I do this, you know. I feel like I'm, you know, resurrecting these old Lincolns. They're my, you know, passion, my dream car. It's my favorite car, always has been. I've been doing nothing but Lincolns for a really long time now. And I feel like I'm resurrecting these things, and I'm bringing, you know, the joy and the experience that there's nothing like it, man. If you've ever driven one of these cars, it's so much different. It's so much better than driving, you know, an old Mustang or Camaro or Nova or some shit. There's nothing like it. These Lincolns are amazing. And so that's why I do all this shit. That's why all the bushings are new, and everything is done right so that you can experience that ride the way it was meant to be. That's why I'm not a big fan of air ride. I've done several cars with air ride. You know, it is what it is. Some people like it, and it's cool. I think it's cool, whatever, but there's nothing like that. It does not, I don't care how well you do it or whatever, the air ride is never going to ride as well as all original suspension and stuff. So just something to look out for. Sorry, it went a little longer than I had expected, but you see how this car looks on the outside. I haven't done any of the outside stuff yet. No body work or anything. I would rather have this car, or a car in this condition where the paint this is the original paint from 1965. I'd rather have it look like this on the outside and look like this underneath 1,000 times over, without a doubt. Oh my gosh, you can keep all these, you know, ones that these guys just put a slick paint job on and some fancy wheels, and then they sell it, and these guys are paying stupid money for them, and none of the important shit's done. You can keep all that shit. I'd rather have all the important stuff done, and who gives a shit what it looks like, man. Just this car, the way it sits right now, I'll be finished with all the drivetrain stuff in the next day or two, and this car will be reliable as can be, go anywhere, looking like shit, whatever, but it's 100 times better. So just some stuff to look out for next time you guys are, you know, looking, or if you're planning on buying one of these cars online. Obviously, you know, I've done a lot of videos about all the electronics and, you know, making sure everything works, especially when we're in this high dollar range. But this is the first video I've done on kind of like some of the stuff you want to look out for underneath and the importance of it and why. So hope the video helps somebody. See you guys next time.